What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here, Speaking Lifestyle. We're going to get going. We're going to talk about prospecting, more specifically, overcoming the boredom of prospecting, because it's inevitable. If you guys are contacting events, if you're trying to get hired, you will get bored. You will naturally sit down, look for events, contact events, and you'll sit there wondering, what the hell am I doing with my life? That's what's going to probably happen. And you have to overcome this boredom of prospecting. I remember when I was just starting and I was just trying to get hired, both as an entertainer and as a speaker. What would happen is I'm sitting there, I'm emailing, right? And remember, I did this all day, every day. I would wake up at least by 7 a.m. I'd wake up and I'd sit down, bam, start sending some emails. I did that all day, every day. What naturally happened is I would get bored. I'm like, this is freaking boring, because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. And it's not just for a day. It's not for a week. It's not for a month. It's for years, right? And so you will get bored, and you have to overcome this boredom. If you don't overcome the boredom, what's going to happen is you're going to stop doing it, and then you just won't get hired. You won't speak anymore, and you'll wonder, like, why am I not getting gigs, right? So you have to understand the cost of not reaching out. If you are reaching out to events, you will get bored, and if you don't reach out to events, you won't get bored, but you won't get any gigs. So it's better to be bored and reach out to events and get the gigs than to not be bored and not get the gigs and be like all the other speakers saying, oh, I get gigs through referrals. And really, they don't have a single gig lined up. They have a ghost schedule. That's what I call it, a ghost schedule. What's up, Kathy? What's up, Jacob? What's up, everybody else who I didn't see join yet? So yeah, you guys got to learn how to overcome the boredom of prospecting. This is one of the things I'm really thinking about this, like all the marketing tactics to grow any business, whether you're trying to speak, whether you're trying to build an online brand, no matter what it is you're doing. I start thinking about it and I'm like, man, all the things that actually grow your business are the things you tend to hate doing, at least in the beginning. And they're the things that tend to be the most boring things, especially in the beginning. But you have to do it. It's the way to grow your business. And you have to understand the cost of not reaching out to events, the cost of not emailing, not calling, not sending an Instagram message, a Facebook message, freaking whatever, Twitter message, whatever you need to do. You got to reach out to these events, because if you're not, you will not get hired. You cannot content your way to getting hired. Trust me on this one. You will be creating content for years before you actually become big enough to get inbound leads through your content. Don't believe me? Go ahead, try it. I'll see you in 3 years and we'll see where you're at, right? You have to understand that you have to reach out to events. The fastest path to getting hired is literally just sending an email to somebody, saying to an event, hey, hire me, son, or I'm going to send the mob to your place, right? So, I mean, you don't want to do that. But basically what's going to happen is you're going to get bored, right? And you have to learn to overcome the boredom. So I'm going to show you the tactics, techniques, the strategy, the psychology that I use to help me overcome the boredom. Because like I said, if there's anyone who is bored, it was for sure me. I'm sitting there reaching out to events all day, every day. In the beginning, I got bored. Then I learned how to overcome it. And I think it's the last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of what really did it for me. I tried like everything, really. I tried to change what I ate. I tried to get more energy in the body. I tried a lot of different things. But the thing that I'm talking about at the very end, that was the thing that really did it for me. But it's also the hardest thing to turn on inside of your brain. It's easier said than done. All right. So let's see. What's up, Bill? What's up, Maggie? What's up, Richard? All right, so you got to understand that this is what I tell everybody. When speakers start reaching out to events, here's what's going to happen, right? Especially when you join the Speak Pro Academy, here's what will happen to you. You will get excited. You're going to be like, all right, let's go, let's get it, let's start reaching out, let's start contacting, let's get booked in 2 days, right? You're going to get all excited. And you're going to start doing some of it. Like you'll get your CRM set up. You'll get some of the stuff set up. You'll start reaching out to events. You'll have the list of ways to find events, just like the huge list. You'll use that. You'll start finding the events. You'll use all the methods to find the emails. Then you'll start contacting them with the email templates, right? You'll start contacting them. But what's going to happen is nobody ever says yes immediately. It just doesn't work that way. You don't just send an email saying, hey, hire me for $10,000 because I'm a great speaker. And people are like, oh my goodness, yes, let's hire you. That's not how it works, right? You send an email. What happens is a lot of times they'll ignore you, and then you have to learn how to follow up. If they respond, then you have to learn how to pitch. But even when you pitch, they still don't hire you immediately because remember, they're not in the right state of mind at this point. A lot of times they're not ready for the actual event. They're not planning the event, that sort of thing. So they're not in the right state of mind. So you're going to have to follow up down the line. So it's not immediate. They don't just immediately get your email and say, let's hire this person. Oh my goodness, greatest speaker alive. Let's hire this person. That's not what happens immediately. So you're contacting these events. You're wondering like, why am I not getting hired yet? Why am I not getting hired yet? And then you start to slow down because self-doubt creeps in. You're like, does this actually work? Does reaching out to events actually work? And so the self-doubt creeps in. When the self-doubt creeps in, you start looking in other places. You have shiny object syndrome. You're like, should I do content? Should I create a podcast? Should I write a book? And so you have this shiny object syndrome and you start to decrease the amount of leads you generate. You start decreasing the amount of outreach prospecting that you're doing. Let's say you're contacting 70 a day. All of a sudden now it goes from 70 a day to 10 a day or 5 a day. And you really get really, really low on that. Now it just makes it even worse because you're not contacting enough people. So of course you're not going to get hired. And then all of a sudden you quit altogether. I warn people of that. I say, here's what's going to come to you. Here's what's going to happen to you mentally. You have to overcome the boredom of prospecting, and here's what you do. So first, be prepared for that to happen to you, okay? Even if you don't think it's going to happen, be prepared for that to happen to you in terms of the shiny object syndrome and all that. Be prepared for that part. You have to understand that the things that grow your business are almost always the things you hate doing. It doesn't matter what business you're in. If you're trying to get speaking gigs, the number one thing you have to do is reach out to events. You have to do prospecting. It sucks, but you have to do it. That is the thing that actually gets you booked. The thing that people like doing are things like actually being on a stage, actually speaking, actually doing things on a stage, or maybe they like writing a book or that sort of stuff, right? So they like doing that, but that's not the thing that gets you booked. Let's say, for example, you're building an online brand. You want to sell online programs. You want to be the expert. Well, the thing that you like doing, which is creating content, almost guaranteed, like creating your podcast, creating the videos, those are the things that you like doing. Those are the things that do not grow your business. The things that grow your business are you spending money on advertising, you spending money to build that list and then sell to the list. That's what actually generates revenue for you in the business. But everyone loves creating the content. Everyone loves creating the podcast, creating the videos, doing all that sort of stuff. Everyone loves that. You can almost guarantee if you're building your business, you can almost guarantee if you're doing the things that you truly like doing, it's probably the thing that will not grow your business. Guaranteed. And so what has to happen is you have to change a couple things inside of your brain in order for this thing to work. What's up, Alio? Haven't seen you in a while. What's up, Caroline? Wani? All right. So first things first, and this is what I talked about a while ago, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago or something, where I said the number one thing that changed my life was scheduling my days. That is hands down the number one thing that changed my life because I did what everyone else did. I was sitting there at first. I'm like, all right. I saw my friend do a cold call. It was mind blowing to me. He just opened a freaking phone book, called up some companies and got booked after a few of them. I was like, what the hell? Like it was mind blowing to me. And then I decided to do it, but I switched to cold emailing. But at the time I didn't really have a strategy. I'm just like emailing, right? I would just find an event, email right then and there. Hey, I'm the greatest speaker alive. Why don't you hire me? Right? So I would just email them. I didn't have a strategy. And so naturally I was sitting there. I wouldn't get, same thing happened to me in terms I'm emailing tons of people every single day for weeks, months, and I wasn't really getting a response. I wasn't really getting hired as fast as I thought I would. And so naturally I'm sitting there getting bored. I'm like, does this thing even work? What the hell, man? Come on now. And so I'm naturally getting bored at doing this and I start to slow down. So what I did is I used the scheduling part. So I start scheduling my days more and more. And I did the Pomodoro technique. I think that's what it's called. The Pomodoro technique, where essentially you schedule 90 minutes or 60 minutes, however long you want to do it. I scheduled 90 minutes of work and then a 15-minute break, then 90 minutes of work, then a 15-minute break, 90 minutes, 15 minutes. And that's kind of what you're doing, right? So it's like the HIIT training in fitness, the high intensity workout type training, where it's like you work out really hard for 90 seconds and you rest for, 15 seconds. You work out hard and then you rest and so on. So the same goes with the prospecting. So that was the first thing that I did. That's the first thing you want to do, to where you essentially schedule the day, you do the Pomodoro technique, and that's just going to help you get focused. The clarity allows you to take more action just because you know exactly what to do. That is why the scheduling your day part is so important. It's going to help you overcome the boredom of prospecting. You're simply going to say, all right, so I'm going to wake up at so-and-so time, get ready, blah, 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 all that stuff. Then at 8 p.m., from 8 p.m. to 9:30, I'm going to simply find events using the award banquet keyword, right? That's all I'm going to do. Then I'm going to take a 10-minute break or whatever. And then from so-and-so to so-and-so, I'm going to find more events using the same keyword and that sort of stuff, right? And then all of a sudden you take a lunch break at that point. Maybe you're, I don't know, maybe you're hungry, so you take a 30-minute lunch break. And then you say, okay, now for another 90 minutes, I'm going to actually contact these events. So all I'm going to do is focus on contacting these events. But what do you do if you actually run out of, or if you accomplish the task before the time is up, right? So let's say you're contacting events. If you guys, let's say you're Speak Pro members, you guys are using software like Yesware and all that sort of stuff to help you contact more events at a faster pace. So you're efficient and effective. So what happened is if you build up a list of 100 events, you can instantly put all that in Yesware and poof, it just sends it out immediately, right? Because it sends it out instantly. It's not going to take you 90 minutes to send out 100 emails. It's going to take you more like 5 minutes, if that, 2 minutes, really. So it's going to send it out to everybody. So if you accomplish that, you simply say, all right, another, for the rest of it, 80 more minutes, I'm going to just find more events, right? So that's all you're really doing. You're kind of just replacing it in a way. But that's the first thing to overcome the boredom is you schedule it. When you're scheduling something throughout the day, you have to treat it as if it's a meeting with God. That's literally how you want to treat it. You're like, look, man, I can't cancel this thing. I can't cancel it. If I cancel, I'm going to hell, right? So you literally have to treat it that way. You have to assume that, all right, so for the 90 minutes, I'm going to do this prospecting. For the 90 minutes, I'm going to find the events. All right, whatever comes up, I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm going to make sure there's no notifications on my computer, no Facebook, none of that stuff. I got a meeting with God for 90 minutes, right? And so that's kind of what you're thinking. You do not cancel it. You do not do other things. That's the first step to actually overcoming this part. Then what you have to do, what I did is I turned prospecting into a game. And I mentioned this inside the Speak Pro Academy, inside of Event Finder, where I said, I realized that naturally I would get bored. And this is one of the things, by the way, that you have to do in business. What's going to happen to you as you're growing your business, you have to be really aware of what's going on inside of your brain, like how you're responding to things. So if you're doing something, you're bored, you have to be very aware of that. That way you can do something to overcome the boredom, right? So I started realizing, even though I was scheduling my days, still I was like, all right, how do I go faster, right? That's what I was trying to think. Like, how do I go faster? How do I find more events, contact more events? So I turned it into a game. And I don't really remember my numbers right now. Like, I don't remember the actual numbers, but basically, let's say I contacted, or let's say in 90 minutes I found 70 events, right? Or 60 events, right? Let's say I found 60 events in the 90 minutes. Well, what I would do is I would say, okay, the next 90 minutes, I'm going to try to find at least 61 events. Right? And I would always try to beat my high score for the day. And I even had a high score for like the week and a high score for the month as well. I literally had a drawing board, or a whiteboard, and I would put the high score on the whiteboard, literally like playing a game. And I'm sitting there trying to beat my high score with the prospecting. I tried to beat the high score in terms of the number of events that I found, the number of events that I contacted. So it was like 2 high scores, right? And so, and then also like follow up. Basically, I literally just turn it into a game. And what you want to do, just like a real game, is actually keep track of it. So you're not just doing it inside of your brain. You're actually writing the number down, and it's literally in front of you. You're very aware of this number. And you can just do it for the day. You can do it for the week, for the month, however you want to do it. But that's what I did. And also at the same time, I would do that with my income as well. So even though people say, don't chase money and all that sort of stuff, to me, it's absolutely ridiculous. Money is literally one of the most tangible goals you can go towards. It is insanely tangible. You're like, all right, this month I made $10,000. Next month, I'm going to double that, make $20,000. That's literally what I did. At a certain point, I didn't think about this a while ago, but I was focusing on how do I make more money each month. Eventually, I got to a point where I said, I want to double the amount of money I make every single month. That's what I started doing. And it actually did work, by the way, in terms of doubling the money. Eventually, you make a lot, and then you can't actually double. So it's almost like, let's say Walmart, right? Walmart, the number one or number two company in the world at this point, they can't say, you know what, next month we're going to double the amount of revenue we generated. And the month after that, we're going to, at a certain point, it doesn't work anymore. But in the beginning, it is a really good goal to have. It's a really good way to play a game inside of your brain, to where you're playing this game in terms of how many events you're finding, contacting, and at the same time, you're playing a game in terms of your income. You're like, all right, this month I got X number of dollars this month. Next month, I'm going to double that amount, right? And you always want to, I think it's best to double it. I think once you make $100,000 a month, then it starts to get harder to double every month. But in the beginning, you're sitting there thinking like, all right, how do I double? How do I double? How do I double? So you're trying to get on stages, and let's say you beat your high score with the prospecting and all that stuff. And let's say this month you did $30,000, right? So now you're thinking, how do I make $60,000 next month? Well, what's going to happen is inside of your brain is going to start thinking very differently at that point. You're like, all right, so in order to double to get $60,000 this month, I can contact more events, but I was trying to contact a lot of events anyways last month. So there isn't more hours in the day. What if I just start charging more? What if instead of $7,000, I just double my prices? Now let's just say it's $15,000 this time. That'd be, now I'll instantly double, right? So that's what's going on inside of your brain. Your brain starts thinking about different ways to do things. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you hit $60,000 a month. Now you're like, all right, let me double. How do I hit $120,000 next month? How do I hit $120,000 a month? Okay. So I optimize my time in terms of how many events I'm finding, contacting. I increase my prices. Shoot, I don't know. You know what? Maybe I'll just hire a virtual assistant. Maybe I'll hire somebody, and then I'll teach them the process. And then it's two people working on the same things at the same time. And so your brain is thinking very differently when you play a game like that. And so that's why, I think it was, I don't remember who it was, but the person said like the quality of your life is going to depend on the quality of the questions you ask yourself. And I truly believe that. That's why I keep telling people, stop asking dumb questions. Like, stop asking questions that you can Google. If you can ask a question that you can Google, it's a really bad question. Instead, you should be asking questions that make you think in a very different way, that make you do things in a very different way. So that's why you want to start asking questions like that. But I turned it into a prospecting game. By the way, guys, if you have any questions, make sure you ask the questions right now, and then I'll come back to it when I'm done with this. All right. If there aren't any questions, then after I'm done, we're just going to be done, right? All right, cool. So after that, I turn into a game. The most important thing is you're going to associate outreach with revenue. That is hands down the most important thing you have to do. You associate prospecting with revenue. In the beginning, it's really hard. Like I said, in the beginning, remember, you're trying to prospect, you're trying to reach out to events. You're not getting hired. Nobody's interested. Your website sucks. All that, your pitch is bad. Everything is really bad, right? And so you're wondering, like, why am I not getting hired? So it's hard to associate prospecting with revenue, with getting on stages. But you have to do it. And so the moment you get a gig, like even if it's a free gig, the moment you get a gig through outreach, you have to it has to be like the most amazing experience in your life. You have to be, oh my goodness, it worked. Oh my goodness. Like even if you only get paid $1, you're like, yes, it worked. And so that's what has to happen inside of your brain, because that emotion is going to help you associate the two. It's going to say, all right, I reached out to the event. I got hired. That's what happened to me when I first got hired by Remax, because that was probably like the first real gig that I got where nobody knew me in the equation. Like, they've never seen me in real life, nothing whatsoever. I just sent out an email, talked a little bit, and poof, I got a corporate gig. I was like, whoa. And that was like the moment for me. I was like, oh my goodness, I got a really big client. Oh my goodness, it's a well-known client. And so that was hands down the moment for me. And you have to have one of those moments, because when you have that moment, you will start associating reaching out with generating revenue. And at that point, it's not going to be a matter of motivation to you. None of that. It's just going to be there. It's going to be a natural obsession to you. You're going to be like, all right, shoot, let me do some more. Right? So that's what you really, really have to do. I'll talk more about that in a second. But the other thing that you want to do is maybe you got to change your environment. So if you are working from home is damn near the hardest thing to do, I think, because you have to be insanely disciplined to work from home. What's going to happen is, if you're working from home, is natural distractions will pop up. Like you'll naturally think, you know what? I can just rest right now. You know, I just go grab something to eat. And so natural distractions are going to pop up. And this is why a lot of people tell you to get a home office and that sort of thing. I almost feel like I probably should have gotten an actual office a while ago. And that probably would have helped out a lot. But I think right now, because I've just been so used to a home office, it doesn't faze me. Like if you guys saw my place, if I could grab this camera, I don't want to freaking grab a whole tripod, but you guys have kind of seen the place a little bit inside the videos. You would see everything in here is set up as a marketing studio. The only way you would be able to tell that I actually live here is if you open the bedroom over there and you would see a bed. That's the only way you would be able to tell. And even in the bedroom, I got a whiteboard in the bedroom, right? And so it's literally the only way you could tell. This entire place is set up as an actual office, a place of business, right? And so it's just to get my mind right. Like even the money art that you can't see right now, but you guys have seen it probably in videos and everything, pictures and all that. The money art, it's there to remind me revenue. That's the purpose of the money art, right? So you change your environment to naturally help you overcome boredom and to naturally help you just get disciplined in general. So obviously if you can do a real office, get a real office, do that. Another thing in terms of changing your environment is to actually hire people. So when I hired a virtual assistant, what happened to me mentally is I felt obligated to show up. So when you're working for yourself, you can wake up and you can just be like, I don't really feel like doing it today. You know, I don't feel like doing any prospecting. You know, let's just go to the movies today. You can do that. But if you have a virtual assistant who's waiting on your instructions, and your virtual assistant's like, where the is Benji? What the hell, right? When you know that's going to happen, you will naturally wake up and be like, all right, I got to do something, right? And so that's what's going to happen. And so if you have a virtual assistant, you'll feel obligated. If you actually have a real office and then you hire someone to go into the office, you will definitely feel obligated. I mean, because then that person, they're going to show up to the office. They won't see you there. They'll be like, what the hell, man? I'm working all the time with his CEO, right? This dude wants me to build his business for him. What the hell, right? So that's what's going to happen when you actually hire someone. You're going to feel obligated to them. You're going to feel obligated in terms of you got to pay them for one. You're going to feel obligated because if you don't show up, you're going to just look like a bad leader in general. Then they'll just stop working for you altogether. So that's another way to really change your environment. And then ultimately you want to get momentum on your side. And I made a podcast about this, podcast and a video about this a while ago, in terms of getting momentum on your side. What you have to do is you want to essentially contact so many events that you like feel this energy inside of you. You contact so many events that you essentially can't keep up. You can't keep up with the replies, with the follow-up. It's hard to keep up. I did this when I was contacting events. It was a lot worse for me because I didn't have a CRM at the time. I didn't really use a CRM. I was just sending out emails. I'm just like, you know what, boom, boom, boom. I just sent out a gang load of emails. I'm getting a gang load of replies. So I'm just inside of my email account. And that's literally how I was running the business. I didn't use a CRM at the time, which it was pretty dumb because even though I knew about CRMs, I didn't want to pay for it. I was like everybody else, like, I don't want to pay for this stuff, right? I can just do it for free, right? So I didn't want to pay for this stuff, and it was a huge mistake. But what you do is you contact so many events that it's like you can't keep up. And then in my case, when I was doing it without a CRM, I literally lost events because I forgot about them, literally. Here's the thing. If you're let's say you talk to 10 people all at once, right? You're contacting events. You talk to 10 events. You can pretty much remember all the stuff in your head. And even if you can't, let's say you forget one of them, as soon as you see the first part of the conversation, you remember the rest. You're like, oh yeah, like it primes you, right? But imagine you're talking to a freaking 1,000 events all at once. There is no possible way you can remember that. Absolutely none. And so what happened is someone will say, oh, yeah, we'll keep you in mind. And you're like, okay, cool. And you'll just completely forget about them. You'll forget to follow up because your contacts so many. You'll forget to follow up unless you have a CRM that reminds you. At the time, I didn't have a CRM. So hopefully you guys bought a CRM at this point. But what's going to happen, you'll contact so many events that you won't be able to keep up. And that type of energy will naturally cause you to overcome the boredom in your business. When you generate momentum in your business, you will naturally overcome boredom in your business. And so that's why you want to just contact so many events. Contacting so many events, it has such a huge benefit in your business because you will also start to feel in demand. And I talk about this a lot in terms of you have to sound in demand. And I've yet to meet anyone who's ever sounded in demand like naturally. Like nobody knows how to sound in demand unless they actually get trained to do it. Because in the beginning, you're just not in demand. Like you're literally not. You have no gigs lined up. You're not charging a lot. You're not in demand. So you start saying things like, thank you for considering me. Things like that, right? Just things that an in-demand speaker wouldn't do. And so when you contact so many events, though, you naturally start to sound in demand because you have all this energy behind you. You're like, all right, I got to hurry up. I got to talk to this person. I got to talk to this person. Let me talk to this person. So you sound in demand. And then all of a sudden, before you know it, one event is saying, hey, we want to hire you for March 22nd. Another event says we want to hire you for March 21st. And now you're like, oh, snaps. All right. And then you tell the other event, you know what? These other people want to hire me for the 21st or these other people want to hire me for the 22nd. So if we're going to do this, then you have to immediately fly me out to this place, right? So you naturally sound in demand when you contact so many events. And then in terms of just momentum in general, you have to always be thinking the time is now. Literally, you just have to think the time is now. Like you got to get it done now. You have to think go, go, go. This is one of the things, like if you see any super successful person, you'll see the sense of urgency inside of them. And the sense of urgency, it may not be real, or whatever it is. It may not be real, but still there's a sense of urgency. Like Jeff Bezos, when he quit he was at a hedge fund, and so he quit the hedge fund. He was making plenty of money at the hedge fund. He was one of the vice presidents at a hedge fund, and he saw this thing called the internet. He's like, all right, this internet thing, there's a lot of opportunity in this thing. If I don't hurry up and get this thing, if I don't hurry up and build this business called Amazon, then somebody else is going to build something like that. So he had this sense of urgency to it. And so that's what you have to have in terms of overcoming the boredom. You need the sense of urgency. You need to understand that if you don't contact events, you will not get hired. Like you just won't. And so a sense of urgency can come from the simple fact that you won't make any money. You're going to literally be in the same place you are right now. And do you want to be like that 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now? Do you want to be like that? The answer is probably no. So you better hurry up and get going. You need to understand it's going to take longer than you thought. It's going to be harder than you thought. So you need to get going right now. So create this sense of urgency, and then also create real energy. So like you can work out, you can actually, caffeine, hey, cocaine, probably not cocaine, but you want to create real energy. Working out is a really good way to create real energy. Back when, so I just graduated college and I had, or did I graduate yet? I don't know. It was like college time, right? So I had this roommate and she was a marathon runner, right? Hands down, the most energetic person I've ever seen in my life, because she was a marathon runner. So she always had that cardio. She would get that runner's high all the time. Like you're running so much, you get all the oxygen in your brain, you get a runner's high. So she naturally had a lot of energy 24/7 because she was working out all the time. So working out actually creates real energy. That's going to help you overcome the boredom. What has to happen in terms of the boredom is you have to truly understand, like, why are you bored to begin with? Like, why are you bored? You're bored because your focus is in the wrong place. You're focusing on the actual activity, not the actual end result of that activity. This is why I keep saying, like, you got to associate making money with prospecting. Because if you are focusing on the activity, like you're focusing on sending emails, you're like, oh man, what the hell? This is stupid. Like if you're focusing on that, you will naturally get bored. Like you'll naturally get bored and you'll stop. You'll be like, this is stupid, right? You're focusing on the lack of people, the lack of numbers in terms of the people hiring you, the lack of numbers in terms of people responding to you. You're simply focusing on the wrong things. On the other hand, if you switch your focus in terms of prospecting equals money, prospecting equals money, prospecting equals money, if you shift that attitude, then what naturally happens is you overcome that boredom naturally. And so even if you're not doing like a prospecting game, and even if you don't feel like it, you will naturally overcome the boredom just because you've shifted your attitude from, hey, when I do outreach, I generate a boatload of money. And so you have to do that. You have to understand your focus in everything you do, not just with prospecting. You have to understand that your focus is truly affecting you. Like where your mind goes, it truly affects you in every single way. This is why I keep telling people that you need to pay attention to what your thoughts do to you, not what that thought actually is. A perfect example of this, if you guys have seen the show The Office, right? I just started watching the show, right? Everyone's talked about this show for years. I've never watched the show until just recently. I'm like, you know what? Let me just watch it. Let me see what everyone's talking about all these years. I started watching it, and the boss, what's his name? Michael, the boss, he's very delusional, right? So when someone says something to him, like, let me see. So someone's like, you know what? You're a horrible person. You smell bad. And I mean, sure you have a nice watch and stuff, but I mean, you're a horrible boss. I mean, like, nothing about you is great. This guy, the Michael guy, he goes, I knew it. They love me. See, they like my watch. I knew they loved me, right? So he's very delusional, which just makes the whole show funny. And it's because his focus is on the things he wants to focus on. He wants to focus on the fact that everybody loves him, even though nobody likes him. And so that's what you're essentially doing in order to overcome the boredom, in order to just build your business in general. You're delusional to an extent. You're saying, okay, it's more like focus to an extent. Most people, they focus on the boredom of it, the actual activity. You're delusional in terms like, all right, man, I'm going to make a boatload of money off doing this thing. So you're doing the same thing as the other person who's bored. It's just a matter of where your mind is when you're bored. You have to keep associating prospecting with revenue. Keep doing it. Like when you're in the shower, when you're working out, whenever you have free time, freaking associate prospecting with revenue. You have to keep doing that. Keep revisiting that inside of your brain. Keep revisiting the vision that you have inside of your brain in terms of what it is you want to accomplish over time. Like you want to be generating at least $500,000 from speaking or whatever. Keep revisiting that inside of your brain, and naturally you're going to start to generate a sense of urgency as well inside of your brain. So you want to keep doing that. And then ultimately, if none of that works, just deal with it. Deal with it. Suck it up and deal with it. This is why I keep telling people it's not about doing what you love. It's about doing what you must. You have to feel as if you are destined for this thing. Like you are destined. It's not about you. It's about the world that you're affecting. It's like, I am destined to do this thing. And when you feel destined to do something, it's no longer about you, how you feel, none of that. You're just like, I have to do it. If I don't do it, the world is going to come to an end. If I don't create motivational content, there's going to be a lot more suicidal people. A lot of people are going to kill themselves. I have to do this. You have to feel destined. So it's no longer about whether you want to do it, whether you're bored, none of that stuff. You're just like, I am destined to do this. And that's one of the things that you want to keep inside of your brain as well. Like you want to keep that to yourself, by the way. There's a book called The Hypomanic Edge. I really recommend buying that book. That's one of my favorite books. But in that book, he talks about guys like Christopher Columbus and all these other billionaires, Andrew Carnegie, all these people. He's like, every single one of them, they were pretty much delusional, every single one of them. But that is why they were successful. They all felt that they were chosen by God to accomplish this thing. If they didn't do it, nobody else would. And that's how you have to feel. It's like, if I don't put this out, nobody else will. Like if I don't actually put out motivational content, the suicide rates are going to increase. In fact, they are increasing right now. That's literally a fact. They are increasing. In fact, it's gotten to a point where one congressman literally said, we need to come up with a 3-digit number like 911 just for suicide, like for people who are thinking about committing suicide. That's how bad it's gotten, right? So you need to understand that you need to feel like you're on a mission. Like, hey man, if I don't do this, if I don't help people get healthy, you're a fitness trainer, right? So if I don't help people get healthy, then they won't feel energetic and they'll be running their business, and then all of a sudden they won't do anything. So they won't generate any revenue. And then all of a sudden they'll wonder like, what's wrong with me? And then they'll go into depression. Then they'll kill themselves, right? All because I didn't teach them how to cook. That's literally how you have to think. I kid you not. That is literally how you have to think. You have to feel destined as if you're on a mission to do this thing. And that is how you actually accomplish it. That's how you overcome the boredom in your business. That's how you overcome everything in your business. You literally just plow through everything. All right. So let's see if there were any questions. I'll come back. If you guys have any questions, make sure you ask. Let's see. So let's see. Wani said, when I heard your story the first time, when you were contacting 100 events a day, when did you get your first gig from when you lost your restaurants and started prospecting like a beast? I'm not really sure when I got my first gig. And the reason is because I do not focus on, well, no. So basically I forget things really easily because it doesn't really matter what I accomplish. That's literally what goes on inside of my brain. It's not that I didn't fail or like things didn't happen or whatever. It's just because when I accomplish something, I pretty much never celebrate it. I remember the first time I hit 100 grand in that month, I was like, oh, cool. All right. And I just literally went back to work. That's literally what happened inside of my brain. I was like, oh, cool. I hit 100 grand a month. All right. I just went back to doing what I do. And so it's one of the things that, I honestly thought I was weird, by the way. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Everyone's celebrating when they accomplish stuff. I'm like, what's wrong with you, Benji? Like, why are you not excited about this? Right. And then I was reading a book, Relentless by Tim Grover. And he also mentioned that in terms of the cleaners. So there's coolers, closers, and cleaners. He's like, cleaners are guys like Kobe and Jordan and all that. And he says what happens each and every single time with someone like Kobe, he wins a championship and he doesn't do what everyone else does. When they win a championship, what most people do, they go out and they celebrate. Yeah, and they're celebrating for a whole month. They're taking their time off. Whereas Kobe, he wins a championship. The very next day, he simply goes to the gym and practices the same way he did every single day before that. And that's what I essentially did as well. So I didn't really pay attention to it. I was just contacting events all day, every day. When I got a gig, I was like, okay, cool. When I got the Remax gig, that was the only one where I was like, oh man, but that was because it felt like, wow, this actually works. Oh my God, I got it to work. That was the moment I was like, damn, I got it to work. Cool. And so I just did more, but I didn't really know when I first got the gig. That's one of the things where I know a lot of speakers ask that question, like, hey, if I start doing this, like how long before I actually get on a stage? The answer is, I don't know. Like there's no possible way to know that because one, nobody knows what level of activity you are going to engage in. I know people think they're going to engage in a lot of activity, but trust me, you will not. You will not engage in as much activity as you think you will. It happens to everybody. When you schedule your day, you're going to schedule it wrong in the beginning. Like everything you do at first will always be wrong in the beginning. You cannot start out a master from the very get-go. Everything you do in the beginning is always wrong. And so like when you're actually like prospecting, you're wondering like how long is it going to take you to get booked? You just need to understand it's going to take you longer than you actually thought. It's going to be harder than you thought, especially if you're doing it by yourself. If you don't have help, like if you're not actually in the Speak Pro Academy, you don't have help doing it. It will take you way longer than you truly could possibly imagine. The only reason I didn't give up, literally the only reason I didn't give up is because one, I saved money inside of my bank account. So I knew that I could go like over, I think it was over a year. Whereas I had all my expenses, all that stuff. I saved up enough money for like over a year to where I could get 0 gigs, absolutely nothing, no restaurants, no corporate gig, no nothing. And I would still be good to go for at least a year. And so I did that on purpose. Like every single dollar that I got, I saved every single dollar. Because I knew like, hey, I wasn't spending money on advertising at the time, none of that sort of stuff. It was just my time that I was spending. And because of that, all the money went into a savings account. I wish I would have known about a money market account back then, but still it went to a savings account. But basically that's what happened. So I saved up a lot of money and I was like, I don't really care how long it's going to take. I for sure have to get at least 1 gig in a freaking year. But like that's what was going on inside of my head, right? So I got to get at least 1 gig in a year. And so because of that, I just kept contacting, and eventually I got booked. That's what's going to happen to you, right? Let's see. Regina said, oh my God, I finally caught you live. I'm always watching on YouTube. Cool. Nice. All right, so let's see. Caroline said, I don't have the boredom problem. I have the execution problem. Let's see. I get overwhelmed trying to search for events. I'm terrible at searching. Can I outsource lead searching to a VA? You can outsource anything to a VA as long as you know how to teach it to them. If you don't know how to do it, they won't know how to do it. Here's the problem that all speakers have. Every single speaker thinks they can just give it to somebody else and that person's going to book a gig for them. That's not what's going to happen. It literally, it doesn't matter if you pay them, doesn't matter if you say, hey, do this and I'll give you a commission. It doesn't matter because they don't know what the hell they're doing. Like literally, you are a speaker. You know way more about them, about the speaking business. They don't know a damn thing about speaking, about booking gigs, event. They don't know a damn thing about it. You know way more about it. And so if you don't know anything about it, they definitely don't know anything about it. And so If you can't teach them the right way, then they won't get you booked. And so that's why you have to do it. And then once you're doing it the right way, you teach them. I can almost guarantee every single person reaching out to events, I can almost guarantee you're doing it in an ineffective way. You're not pitching the right way because you're not sounding in demand. And so you have to learn how to really do that. This is why I tell everybody join the Speak Pro Academy, post inside the group and everything. But you can give anything to a VA as long as that VA is trained. But the problem is, do you know how to train the VA? That's the problem. I was talking about this with a speaker inside the building, actually. So the speaker, we were just talking in general. I said, look, man, you can easily just bring in a VA or hire anybody. The thing is, you just have to know how to do it. Like, if you don't know how to do it, how could you possibly teach them? It's like, imagine it's the blind leading the blind. So imagine I say, what's something I don't, let's say, all right, so chess. I mean, I know how to play chess, but I'm not like Paul in here. Right? So Paul's almost a grandmaster, right? But it's like, let's say I say, you know what, I'm going to teach someone chess. I'm going to teach him how to be Magnus Carlsen, a chess grandmaster. I'm going to teach him how to freaking beat Bobby Fischer, right? There's no possible way that will ever happen. I can't teach anybody at that level because I'm not at that level. I can't teach it because I don't know it. So the same goes with speaking. Like, you can't teach what you don't know. And so that's why it's really, really important that that you truly know how to do it, that you've gotten yourself booked multiple times. So you don't just say, I know how to do it. There has to be tangible results from it. So it has to be to a point where you got a gig where nobody knew who you are. They didn't see you, so it's not a referral. They've never seen you on a stage before. Absolutely nothing there. You're a freaking nobody to this person, right? And you reach out to them and then you get hired. When you do that and you get booked multiple times that way, you're like, okay, I got it. I got the process down. Now you teach it to somebody else. That's when it actually worked for you. So it's really important that you do that. So let's see. Sophie said, I had the same issue and I did hire a VA. But like Benji says, until I get the process down, there's no way I can explain to a VA what to do. So right now I'm just doing it in a slow process. All right. Yeah, exactly. So like what I said in terms of the VA, because what's going to happen is when you use a VA or anybody who's actually trying to contact events and trying to do the thing for you, they will fall into the same traps that everybody falls into. Like here's a simple trap that people fall into. When they're finding events, what happens is, let's say you use a keyword award banquet to find events. So you go to Google, type in award banquet to find events. Here's what most speakers do, most people do in general. They click on the link to the website. They copy and paste that link to the CRM or an Excel spreadsheet. They look for the person, like a name. They're like, who's in charge, huh? So they're looking for a name. Then they copy and paste a name. They look for the contact information. They copy and paste a phone number and email. They looked around the website a little bit more. And before they know it, an hour goes by and they've only found 5 events. And so that's what happens to people because they're doing it wrong. And they don't know they're doing it wrong. They're just doing it. They're like, well, I found events, right? They don't know they're doing it the wrong way. And the same goes with actually contacting events, like actually talking to events. You're talking to an event, like you're replying, they're replying and all that sort of stuff. They're like, what do you charge? You're like, all right, I charge X amount. You're talking to them, and little do you know, you're saying things like, would you please consider me for your events? Thank you for your reply. You're saying things like that, and then you don't know you're doing it wrong. And so that's what happens. And until you actually know how to do it right, that's when you actually teach someone. And so that, because otherwise you're just teaching them the wrong things. It would literally be like me teaching someone, what's another sport? Tennis, right? So I don't know anything about tennis. I just know, all right, like that's all I know about tennis. It would be like me teaching someone tennis. I would teach them everything the wrong way. I'd be like, well, just when the ball comes to you, just hit it, right? Like literally, I'd teach them everything the wrong way. And then a real tennis pro would come in, Serena Williams, would be like, what the hell did he teach you? What are you doing? So that's what happens when you don't actually know how to do it the right way. All right, so all right, let's see, get that. Any other questions? The events. She said, the events I find all have those long online forms to submit. Maybe I'm targeting the wrong events. No. So, Caroline, like I mentioned this a while ago, this is why like you want to use your CRM in the right way. This is why you want to join the Speak Pro Academy, because little things like this are things that we talk about inside the program. So when you come across the websites that have the forms and they don't have an email like right there, what you do is you create a tag inside of your CRM saying contact form, right? So let's say I found 100 events, and out of the 100 events, let's say I'm going through and I'm looking for email addresses for those 100 events, right? And I find 70 email addresses, and then 30 of them I can't find because the 30 they just have the contact forms. Every time I'm on that website, I go to my CRM and I check mark contact form inside of the CRM, and then I just leave. I click out of the website and I go to the next website and I look for the email address. I say, okay, oh, they have a contact form too. So now I check mark contact form in the CRM. Once again, at a certain point, I've now found 70 real email addresses. 30 of them have contact forms. All I'm going to do is focus on these 70 first. Once I get these 70 emails sent out, now I'm going to go back. I'm going to filter out inside of my CRM the contact form ones, and I'm going to go to those, and I'm going to fill out the contact forms with a Google Chrome extension that just pre-populates everything, right? And so that's what you do. So that's literally all you're doing with that sort of thing, right? So details. It all comes down to details. Literally, this is why I do not mind giving away so much information, because in order to get hired, you have to focus on the details. The actual things you do to get hired are two things. You have a great website and you just contact events. That's all you do to get hired. But within those two things, you have to know how to build the great website. You have to know how to find and contact events the right way. Otherwise, it just won't work. And so if you guys aren't Speak Pro members, you guys have to join, because you don't know what you're missing. Let's see. Elio said, you guys can try to find events and get the VA to find the emails, but even that, you need to train the VA on who to look for. Yep. Yeah, because like I said, I mean, I've worked with like VA companies and stuff, and they actually said, they're like, Benji, how do you find so many events? Like our VAs, they can't find that many events that you keep talking about. I'm like, I can literally, because I think the most that a VA company could find was like 20 events in an hour. I was like, that's slow as like literally. I was like, that's slow. Like there's no way. And so I was like, you guys are doing what everyone does. You're qualifying and finding at the same time. And so like I was trying to train them and all that sort of stuff. And so, it's just one of those things where, if you don't know the details of the thing you're teaching, then you're gonna inevitably teach it the wrong way. That's just a simple fact. All right. So let's see. Ari said, I booked a gig for May 17th, 6 months ago. Last week, I got a request for the same date. Nice. So Ari, yeah, if you're going to do that, if you get a request for the same date, you simply tell them like, hey, I'm booked up on that date. And then you ask them like, what about the 17th? I would say like, what about the 18th or the 19th? And, well, I guess that would depend on the timing of the event on the 17th. But yeah, I would say like, what about the 18th or the 19th? You can bring me in. So first I would start out by doing that. Then if they're like, we can't bring you in for any other date because this is the specific date of our keynote or whatever, then I'll say, okay, well, let's chat about next year. When's a good time to chat about next year, right? And so what you're doing when you're actually booked up, you don't just kind of leave it at that. You're simply saying, okay, that it's a good thing when two events contact you at the same time, because your value goes from here to way up here. They're like, oh my goodness, this dude's booked, right? And so, you use that to your advantage. You're like, all right, so if we can't get it this year, let's do it next year. And it just increases your value in general. All right, so let's see. Bill said, I've contacted 1,200 events between the college market and youth market. Keeps me busy responding back. Yeah, exactly. See, that's what I'm talking about in terms of the momentum. If you contact 1,200 people, 1,200 events, they're going to freaking reply to you. Like, even if you don't get not all of them are going to reply, but a lot of them are going to reply, especially if you guys are doing the event finder sequence. A lot of them are going to reply, and then you're going to feel like you need to hurry up. So you're going to be like, hurry up. It's going to naturally create that like prospecting feeling, that urgency feeling and everything. All right. So let's see. Wani said, prospecting is so much fun to me. Cool. So let's see. So he said, I'm grateful for this conversation. All right. It's true. See if there are any other questions. On a separate note, do you have a template for contracts? Yeah, Ari, just go to the resources section in the Speak Pro Academy and just click on the contract right there. All right. Let's see. Jonathan said, could you use the approach taught at Speak Pro Academy to book lunch? Oh, Lunch and Learn's as well as speaking gigs? Would it be the same approach? Yeah, I mean, so all the Speak Pro Academy really is just showing you how to reach out to events. I use this to book myself as an entertainer, as a speaker, to do workshops, to sell online programs. Like literally, I've used the outreach thing to do anything. Outreach, all it is, you're just talking to someone. That's all you're doing is just reaching out to them. You're sending an email. You can sell whatever you want to sell at that point. It's just you're reaching out to people. You're just doing it in a very strategic way. So most people, they'll send an email, that's it. Or maybe they'll follow up, they'll keep it all in their head, that's it. With Speak Pro Academy, everything is really, really strategic. Like, as you guys know, based on my content, I'm strategic as a mofo. Like I sit down, I'm like, how do I make this thing way more effective and efficient? Like that, I'm strategic as a mofo with all my stuff. So that's all you're doing. It doesn't really matter what it is you're booking. So like in the beginning, like I said, I just booked entertainment gigs. Then I realized if I just called myself a speaker, I would get paid more. So I started booking speaking gigs, started speaking at events. And then, now it's more like workshops, because now we're basically doing like trying to do high ticket stuff. So how do we do $30,000 and up type of stuff? How do we sell that? I'm trying to even sell things at like 80 grand level, 100 grand level. I'm trying to do things like that. It's just a matter of what you're selling. But outreach can sell anything, literally anything when you're reaching out. It doesn't really matter what the price tag is, all right, or what it is. Let's see. Ari said, just got a confirmation for another gig in London. Cool, nice. By the way, guys, Ari's a Speak Pro member. He got a gig in London. Hey, when did Ari join? Like last month or something? I'm just saying, there's a correlation. Let's see. Mark said, what does the CRM stand for? CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management, or Manager. Oh, okay. Dang it. I already just answered that. Should have just read one comment below. All right. So let's see. Celso said, how do you get more events the right way? Oh man, there's so much that goes into it. That's actually literally what Event Finder in the Speak Pro Academy is about. It's more a matter of, let me see if I can sum this down. It's more a matter of focus. So what most people do when they find and contact events, they find and contact events all in one. So let's say I do a Google search for award banquet. I do a Google search for that. I see an event on Google. I click on the link, and then I go to I copy and paste all the information in the CRM, and then I go to their contact page, and I actually send them an email right then and there. I'm like, all right, so would you be interested in hire me? I'm the greatest speaker alive, right? That's what most speakers do. On the other hand, that's what I did at first. And then I realized I was doing the same thing as all these VA companies and everything. I would only contact like 10 events in freaking 60 minutes. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, how do I do this faster, right? Then I said, okay, let me apply an insane level of focus. So I said, all right, all I'm going to do for 90 minutes straight is just find events, aka find websites. So all I did was I would Google award banquet. I would copy and paste a link to the website, bam, move on to the next thing. Copy and paste a link to another website, bam, move on to the next thing. Copy and paste a link to another website, bam, move on to the next thing. So I wasn't doing multiple things at once. I wasn't looking at the website, then finding the email, then contact. I wasn't doing it all at once. I split it up. That's basically how you do it really fast. There are, of course, more details to that, but that's the basics of it. That's why I'm telling you guys, if you guys aren't Speak Pro members, what's going to happen, it's just going to take you way longer than you realize. All right, so let's see. Caroline said, so if it has a form with an email address, would you email them first to get more information before sending the form? No, I mean, if there's an email address, I just take the email address. I don't use I don't use the contact form. All right, so, okay, so Elio kind of went into detail about that in terms of, do you mean a call for speakers? Okay, so if that's what you mean, then yeah, it's a little different. So Caroline said, all right, I mean, if I go to an event website, they have a speaker form, but ask you to fill out okay. Yeah, so in that case, it's almost always the wrong event. So I'll tell you right now, that is a negative lead score in your CRM. Once again, guys, join Speak Pro Academy. Join Speak Pro. That is a negative lead score in your CRM. Every single event that says fill out this speaker form, this RFP form, that is a huge negative lead score because simply because they don't really pay speakers, right? The mindset is very different from these people. They're like, we're doing you a favor as a speaker. We're putting you on a stage. You get to show your expertise. That's literally what they think. So they're not going to pay you. If anything, they're going to tell you to pay them, to pay for their event, to pay for your own flight, hotel, all that sort of stuff. So it is a huge negative lead score. So that's why those events at first I used to contact them. Once again, I did the same thing as everybody else. I contact them. I realized like these events are just wasting my damn time. So eventually I realized, let me put this as a huge negative lead score. I would not fill out the form. I never fill out the form. I literally said, you forget forms. I don't care if I email them and they say, fill out this form. I will literally say, I know you normally have people fill out the form because, and then bam, I'll do the thing, the email template inside of Event Finder. I'll put that in there, but I wouldn't ever fill out a form. I'd never fill out forms ever, like ever. Just because it's literally a waste of time. And then when I send them the email, they're like, oh, but you got to fill out form. Bam, ignore. Like once again, they're in the negative status of the lead score. So they're not a qualified lead in any sort of way. So I just ignore those people. Like literally. All right. So let's see to do. So we got that. Bill said, how does it differ to pitch a college event versus corporate event? There really is no difference when you're pitching. Well, all right. No, there is somewhat of a difference. So when you're pitching like colleges, you're focusing more on the fact that you're not boring. So when you're doing the youth market, the biggest fear of teachers and all them, they're thinking like, dang it, what if this speaker is boring in any way? The students are going to like show it. Whereas you're in the corporate market, and this is why I've told my friends, I've never gotten a heckler, because imagine that you're in a room, your boss, your CEO is there. You will never heckle anyone. Doesn't matter how bad they are. I'm not bad, but it's like, doesn't matter how bad a person is on a stage. It's very rare you'll get heckled unless you're in a sales environment, but it's like you won't get heckled. On the other hand, in the college market and in the high school market, you probably will get heckled a little bit. I mean, they will definitely show it. This is why, watch that thing with Eric Thomas, right? When Eric Thomas he just went off on the college crowd. I think it was a college or maybe high school, one of them. He was like, what the hell are you at? Like, he went off. It went viral, right? He's like, you got people out here who love you. I'm sitting there, I did this thing for free for you guys. Like, he went off on him. I was like, damn, you go, man. And so, so the way you pitch in the youth market is you're focusing more on, hey, it's going to be really entertaining and they won't be bored in any sort of way. So that's kind of the difference in terms of what it is you're doing. You're still saying that in the corporate market, but you're focusing more of that in the college market and the youth market in general. All right. So Wani said, what if you find several events and it's the same event planner? How do you handle that without feeling like you're spamming? Well, with something like that, so it really depends on like which event. I just say like, hey, I noticed that you do all these events. Which event? I'll actually pick one. So I personally will pick one. I'll say, here's the event that I want to do. Like that's literally what I'll do. I'll pick one, and then you know that they have other events. And so even if they say, oh no, that one wouldn't be good, I'd be like, okay, well, which one is? So that's kind of what you're doing in that case. All right, so. See, we only have a couple minutes left. Let's see if there were any quick questions I can answer real quick. See, people have call speakers, can still hire a keynote speaker, right? May not be a tech. Yeah, people have the call for speakers. They can still hire the speakers, but they just don't pay speakers. Like they literally, it's 90%. You'll never get paid. And if you do, it'll be like $500, maybe $1,000 or whatever. So you just don't get paid. It's not something you want to focus on. You don't focus on conferences or seminars. The mindset is very different. All right. So it's really important that you do that. All right. So let's see. He said, I think this is my problem, Benji. I should have joined the Speak Pro Academy. Yeah, you should have joined that first. You might as well join right now. It's never too late to join. If anything, the people who succeed the most in the Speak Pro Academy aren't the beginners. They're the ones who actually have done stuff, and they just need to kind of crystallize what they're doing. They just need to get more strategic about what they're doing. In fact, I've almost gotten to a point where I'm going to close off the Speak Pro Academy to beginners because I realize beginners don't do a damn thing. Like, I want people in the program who have actually done things and they just want to make it more efficient. That's it. So it's almost like we're in the professional level. We're in the NBA level. I like to talk with people who are at college level, not people who haven't even picked up a freaking basketball. Not someone who's like, basketball seems interesting. It's my calling to be a basketball player. Like those people, I'm like, man. Whereas if you're actually a college player, like you get most of it. You're not at NBA level yet. You're either at a good high school level or a college level. You're not at NBA level yet. If you want to get to NBA level, you join the Speak Pro Academy. And I'll tell you right now, it doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter how many gigs you've gotten. If you are at college level or whatever, I'll take you to the NBA level. That's literally what Speak Pro Academy does. All right. So I'll answer the rest of the questions another time. We only got like a minute left. So ask if I missed any of your questions, and make sure you just ask tomorrow. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. So thanks everybody for showing up. I will see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody. And once again, guys, speakproacademy.com. If you really want me to help you get booked on stages, join speakproacademy.com. All the details are in there. Like, you have no idea how detailed you need to get and how detailed this thing is to actually get you booked. Like, you have no idea. I'm telling you, no idea whatsoever. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Take care, everybody.